I was standing in line at a quiet cafe in Seattle waiting for my drink when I felt something warm and small wrap around my legs. I looked down. A little girl with curly chestnut hair clung to me like she hadn't seen me in years. Her cheeks were flushed, and she looked up with wide eyes and a smile that stopped my breath. "Mommy," she said. My hands froze around my wallet. I looked around, confused, assuming her real mother must be nearby. But the girl wasn't confused. She was holding on to me like she meant it. I knelt down slowly, heart racing. "Sweetheart, I'm not your mom," I said as gently as I could. She didn't back away. Her eyes didn't flicker with uncertainty. She just stared at me like she knew me, like she had always known me. Then, a woman came rushing over from the seating area, late 30s, short dark hair, dressed in a green jacket and jeans. Her face was pale with panic. "I am so sorry," she said, crouching next to the girl and gently pulling her away. She's never done this before. I don't know what." "It's okay," I said, my voice cracking a little. "She's not hurt." The girl kept looking back at me, eyes searching my face. "What's her name?" I asked. The woman hesitated. "Leora," she finally said. "Leora May." I blinked. "Sorry, what?" "Leora May," she repeated. "Why?" I stared at her, my breath catching. "That's my name," I said, too softly for anyone else to hear at first. Then louder. "That's my name, first and middle." The woman stared at me, confused now, but something in her face began to shift. I saw her eyes darken with worry. "What's her birthday?" I asked. My voice wasn't mine anymore. It felt distant, hollow, like I was hearing someone else ask the question. The woman furrowed her brow. "January 17th. I didn't say anything. She added, 1997. I dropped my drink. The cup hit the floor with a sharp clatter, tea spilling across the concrete. I didn't move. That's my birthday. My exact birth date. Same name. Same day. Same person. I couldn't breathe. The air in the cafe suddenly felt too thick. My legs were shaking, my palms damp. The woman stood frozen, her mouth slightly open, waiting for me to say something that would make sense of all this. But I couldn't speak, because everything I believed about my life, who I was, where I came from, what I knew to be true, just cracked wide open in the middle of a rainy Tuesday afternoon while I was ordering a chai latte. And it all started with a little girl who looked up at me and called me Mommy. My name is Leora Wren. I'm 28 years old, and for most of my life, I thought I knew exactly who I was. I grew up in a modest neighborhood just outside of Seattle, raised by my grandfather after my mother died when I was 10. My father was never in the picture. I used to believe that was the saddest part of my story. I was wrong. I'm a graphic designer by trade. I work freelance. Logos, websites, sometimes illustrations for small publishers or startups. It pays the bills. Most days, I work from my apartment, a third-floor walk-up with creaky floors and peeling windows but good light. I have plants I pretend to know how to care for, and a cat named Finch who pretends not to like me. I've always liked quiet. I don't do parties. I don't chase chaos. I keep my world small. A few months before that day in the cafe, I'd ended my engagement to a man I thought I'd marry. His name was Colin. He was kind in the beginning. He listened. But over time, something about us just stopped working. It wasn't explosive or cruel. It was a slow unraveling of things we never really understood about each other. He wanted a family. I didn't know what I wanted. I wasn't sure I could give someone a childhood better than mine, and I didn't want to try and fail, so I let him go. Since then, I'd been living quietly. I stopped taking new clients for a while. I deleted my social media accounts. I walked around the city in the rain like I was waiting for something, though I couldn't have told you what. Maybe peace, maybe forgiveness. That Tuesday, I walked into one of my favorite spots, an old cafe tucked between a bookstore and a dry cleaner. I'd been coming there for years. I liked the smell of roasted beans and old furniture, the creaky stools, the way no one tried to talk to you unless you wanted them to. It was my sanctuary. I ordered the same drink I always did, a chai latte with oat milk, and sat near the back where the window fogged just slightly from the rain outside. I pulled out my sketchbook, not for work, just to draw. Sketching always helped me sort through things I couldn't put into words. That day, I was drawing my mother, or what I remembered of her. Her name was Surreal. She had a soft voice and strong hands. She used to read to me at night, even when she was tired. There were things I remembered. Her scent, the way she hummed when she cooked, the worn corners of her leather-bound notebook. And there were things I didn't. Whole years of her life that felt like shadows, like someone had taken a pair of scissors to the film reel of my memory. When she died, my grandfather Amos took me in. He was a stern man, proud and private, but he loved me in his own way. He'd been a Navy officer for most of his life, and he ran his house like a quiet ship. No mess, no wasted time, no room for weakness. He didn't talk much about my mother. If I asked too many questions, he'd shift the topic or simply walk away. I stopped asking. But that day, as I sat there drawing her, I realized how little I really knew. She never spoke about where I was born or who she was before me. No stories about her childhood, no pictures of when she was young. Her past was a locked box, and somehow I'd never found the key. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was guilt. I had no siblings, no extended family I knew well, except for my cousin Kyle, my grandfather's brother's son. He was more like an older brother to me. Kyle had served overseas, then got out of the military and started working in cybersecurity. He was always the person I turned to when something felt too heavy to carry alone. But even he didn't know much about my mom. Amos didn't talk to him about her either. That morning I had been thinking about calling Kyle. I almost did. Something about the sketch, about seeing her face come to life on the page again, made me miss her more than usual. But I didn't call. I just kept drawing, sipping my drink, listening to the soft jazz playing over the cafe speakers. I remember looking outside and watching the rain slide down the glass like tears. I felt something settle in my chest, quiet, sad, but peaceful. And then the little girl ran up and called me Mommy. That's where everything shifted. That's where the line between memory and reality, past and present, me and her, began to blur. I stood frozen in the middle of the cafe, tea soaking into my jeans and the floor, my heart pounding so loudly I couldn't hear anything else. The little girl, still clinging to the woman's hand, kept looking back at me with a mixture of confusion and longing. Her mother, if that's what she was, watched me closely now, not with hostility, but with a guarded wariness. She sensed something was wrong, too, maybe not in the same way I did, but enough to feel it. I don't understand, I said, trying to sound calm. You said her name is Leora May? The woman nodded slowly. Yes, why? Because that's my name and my birthday, January 17th, 1997. The woman's mouth opened, then shut again. Her grip on the girl's hand tightened. I could tell she wanted to walk away, to remove herself from this strange encounter. But she didn't. She stayed. Maybe part of her wanted to understand it too. We both stood there for another moment, locked in the kind of silence that doesn't feel natural. I felt people staring. A barista called out someone's order in the background, but I barely heard it. Finally, she cleared her throat and extended her hand. My name is Hallen, she said. Hallen Vance. I shook her hand. My fingers were cold. She's adopted, Hallen added, glancing at the little girl. It was a closed adoption, organ agency. We don't know anything about her biological parents, not even their names. My pulse skipped. When did you adopt her? 3 years ago, she said. She was just over 2 at the time. It took nearly a year to finalize everything. Why are you asking? Because this doesn't make sense, I said. She has my exact name. She has my birthday. She looks like me. Halen looked down at the girl, really looking at her for the first time since I said those words. Leora May was now playing with the hem of her shirt, a little shy but not afraid. She looked up at both of us with those same hazel green eyes I saw every morning in the mirror. I think I need to sit down, I said. Hallen nodded, gesturing toward a table in the corner. Let's talk, if that's okay. I followed her there like someone walking in a dream. My legs felt unsteady. I didn't know what I was doing. I only knew I couldn't walk out of that cafe and pretend this didn't just happen. We sat. The little girl climbed into a chair next to Hallen and watched me quietly. I've never seen her do anything like that, Hallen said, running up to a stranger, calling someone Mommy. It's not like her. She really thought I was her mother, I whispered. I don't know how that's possible, she replied. I didn't either. I looked at the girl. She smiled, small and sweet with a slight twist in her top lip. I had that same twist when I was her age. I remembered it from pictures my grandfather used to keep on the mantel. Her hands looked like mine, long fingers, square nails, same mole on the wrist. Not similar, identical. "Helen," I said, voice steady now, "would you be willing to do a DNA test?" She hesitated. I didn't blame her. I was a stranger. For all she knew, I could be unstable. But then she looked at the girl again, and something in her face softened. Worry and curiosity pulled her in two directions, but she nodded. "Okay," she said. "If it will help figure out what's going on, yes." That night, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment over and over, her voice calling me Mommy, her hand grabbing my coat, that name, that birthday. I dug out the only childhood photos I had of myself and stared at them until my eyes burned. Then I placed them next to a screenshot I had taken of the girl in the cafe when Helen wasn't looking. It wasn't just the eyes or the shape of her mouth. It was everything. That girl looked like someone had reached back in time and pulled me out of it. The next day, I called my cousin Cale. He listened quietly while I told him the story. I expected him to laugh or question my sanity, but he didn't. "Okay," he said. "This sounds crazy, but let's not ignore it. You want me to look into this agency?" "Yes," I said. "And the adoption records if you can find anything." "I'll need a name, maybe a birth certificate. You get the DNA test first. I'll dig while you wait." Cale had always been my voice of reason. If he was taking this seriously, I knew I wasn't imagining things. By the end of the week, Helen and I scheduled the test. It would take several days to get results, but something told me I already knew what it would say. In my gut, I felt a shift I couldn't ignore, like something had been buried in my past, something someone didn't want me to find. But now that it had surfaced, there was no going back. That little girl wasn't just some eerie coincidence. She was connected to me in a way I didn't yet understand. I could feel it every time she looked at me. Something was wrong, something was missing, and I was going to find out what. I didn't tell my grandfather about the little girl right away. I couldn't. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I needed space to understand it myself. I needed proof. Something solid. Something no one could brush off as coincidence or delusion. The DNA test results were expected in a week. I spent those days torn between obsession and panic. I couldn't focus on work. I couldn't sleep without seeing her face. Every part of me ached with the need to know who she really was and why she existed with my name and my birth date. Kyle was already digging. He had always been good at uncovering things people tried to bury. We spent hours together, laptops open, documents scattered across my table. He tracked down the adoption agency Helene mentioned, Rosebridge Family Services, based in Portland. The website was down. The business had dissolved 2 years ago. Public records showed it was sued multiple times for mishandling paperwork and failing to disclose key information during placements. What if she's not just adopted? I asked Cale as he scrolled through archived web pages. What if someone made her? Cale looked up, eyes narrowed. You mean like a clone? I nodded. I didn't say it out loud before, not even to myself. Saying it made it feel even more unreal, but nothing else fit. She wasn't just similar to me. She was me. I know how it sounds, I said, but you didn't see her, Cale. He leaned back in the chair, rubbing his jaw. If someone wanted to replicate a person, they'd need DNA access, a laboratory technology most people don't have. I paused. What if someone did have it? We stared at each other, and I knew what we were both thinking. My mother, Sorrel Wren, had worked in biomedical research. She never talked about it in detail, but I remembered the white coats, the sterile folders she kept in the fireproof box. My grandfather burned most of it after she died, said it wasn't for me to worry about. Back then, I believed he was trying to protect me from pain. Now I wondered if he was protecting me from something else entirely. Do you still have anything she left behind? Cale asked. I nodded. A few notebooks, some flash drives. I don't know what's on them. Bring them. We spent that night reading through my mother's writing. Most of it was filled with formulas, medical shorthand, and references we didn't understand. But one page stood out. It was folded in half, tucked into the back of a leather journal. The title at the top read, Subject, Leora W. Beneath it were notes, fragmented, cryptic, but undeniably about me. High cognitive retention beyond baseline. Memory fluidity, present before age 4. DNA sequence secured, phase 1 complete. Kyle read the page 3 times before looking up. She was testing you, he said quietly, or testing something in you. I felt my skin prickle. Why would she write about me like that? I don't think she meant for you to ever see this, he said. The next day, the DNA results came in. I opened the email on my laptop while sitting across from Hallen in her living room. Leora May was asleep upstairs. My hands shook as I clicked the file. A 99.99% maternal match. Hallen gasped softly. Her hand flew to her mouth. She looked at me, horrified and confused. "You're her biological mother," she said. "But how?" "I've never been pregnant," I said. "I've never even been to a fertility clinic. I don't know how this is possible." Hallen began to cry. Not loudly, just a quiet trembling, like something inside her had cracked. "I would never have agreed to this," she whispered. "I thought she came from someone who wanted her to have a better life. Someone who couldn't keep her." "I believe you," I said. "But someone wanted this hidden." We sat in silence for a while. Eventually, she wiped her eyes and asked, "What do you want to do?" I didn't answer right away. I had no legal rights to this child, but I felt a bond with her that no court order could undo. I knew I couldn't walk away, and I needed answers. "I need to talk to my grandfather," I said finally. "I think he knows something." That evening, I drove to the house where I grew up. Amos Wren lived alone now in the same quiet home filled with military plaques and books about world wars. He greeted me with a warm hug and a stiff smile. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where my mother used to braid my hair before school. "I need to ask you something," I said, looking him in the eye. "And I need the truth." He nodded once. "Ask." "Was Mom involved in something? Something to do with cloning? With me?" His eyes didn't widen. He didn't flinch. He just stared at me for a long moment, then exhaled through his nose like someone bracing for impact. "She wanted to protect you," he said. "That's why she ran." I leaned forward. "Protect me from what?" He looked away. "That," he said, "is where the real story begins." My grandfather didn't speak right away. He stood from the table, walked to the cabinet near the hallway, and pulled out a small wooden box I hadn't seen in years. It was the same one he kept locked when I was a child, the one I once tried to open with a bobby pin when I was 12. He placed it in front of me, unlocked it with a key from around his neck, and slid it toward me. "I told myself I'd never open this again," he said. "But you've earned the truth." Inside were a few items: an old ID badge, a bundle of handwritten notes, and a black flash drive marked only with a red X. I lifted the badge first. My mother's photo stared back at me, younger than I remembered her, smiling faintly. The text read, "Department of Biomedical Innovation Tier 4 Clearance, Dr. Sorrel Wren." "She worked for the government?" I asked. "Privately contracted. They said it was all legal. Research into memory storage, neuroplasticity, genetic replication. At first, it was theoretical. Then they started testing on animals, then embryos." I looked at him. "Did she test on me?" "Number not directly, but you were part of it. She gave birth to you in a research facility. You were what they called a phase 1 subject. They monitored everything, your learning patterns, your sensory development, even your dreams. Your mother didn't like what they were doing. She said they were crossing a line, so she took you and ran." "They let her leave?" "They didn't know right away. She erased every trace of your early records before disappearing. Changed names. Built a new identity. I helped her. She was terrified they'd come for you." I felt a cold weight settle in my chest. "What were they trying to do?" I asked. "What was the goal?" "They were creating templates," he said. "People whose memories and genetic markers could be stored, manipulated, and eventually reproduced. Not just cloning, but imprinting. Rebuilding not only a body, but a mind." My hands tightened around the edge of the table. "So that little girl, she's me. Literally me." "She's your genetic duplicate," he said. "But I doubt she's been imprinted. If she was, she'd act more like you did at her age. She has your DNA, but her life will shape her differently. I tried to breathe, but the air felt thin. Who made her? He shook his head. I don't know. After Sorrel died, the program vanished. No more contact, no letters, no threats. I thought we were safe, but someone clearly kept your genetic material. I opened the flash drive on my laptop. Inside was a single folder. It contained encrypted logs, scanned lab notes, and a video file labeled LW sub J ECT1 farewell. I clicked it. The screen flickered, and then my mother appeared. She looked older, tired but clear-eyed. Her voice was steady. If you're seeing this, it means I failed to keep you away from all of this. It means someone didn't listen. Leora, I wanted more than anything for you to have a normal life. But your DNA wasn't just yours. It belonged to them too. They saw you as a foundation, not a person. She looked off camera for a second, as if listening to something in the distance. I gave them access once, just once, and that was all they needed. You were perfect. Your memory retention, your emotional intelligence, your genetic clarity. They believed they could rebuild humanity with people like you, recreate lives, rewind mistakes. I told them they were wrong. She looked back at the camera, eyes shining. If she exists, another version of you, take care of her. She didn't choose this. None of us did. But she is part of you. And maybe she's a chance to do it better, to protect what I couldn't. The screen went black. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I sat in silence, my hands cold, my thoughts spinning in every direction. Everything I believed about my life, my origin, my childhood, my mother, had been rewritten in 20 minutes. I wasn't just someone's daughter. I was a design, a model, a prototype. But I was also still me. Later that night, I met Hallen at the park near her house. The air smelled like fresh grass and wet pavement. Leora May was on the swing set, pushing herself slowly, eyes half closed in the fading light. I know everything now, I said. My mother, the laboratory, all of it. Hallen nodded. She didn't look shocked, just tired. I don't know what this means for the future, I said, but I want to be part of her life. I need to. She asks about you, Hallen said. She draws pictures of you at school. She says you feel like home. I walked toward the swing set. Leora May looked up and smiled. Hi, Mommy. I knelt beside her. I didn't correct her this time. I didn't pull away. I took her hand and held it like I was anchoring myself to the only real thing left in the world. Because in that moment, she wasn't a science experiment. She wasn't a mystery. She was a little girl who needed someone, and I could be that someone. Maybe that was what my mother wanted all along. It's been 4 months since the day a little girl ran up to me and called me Mommy. 4 months since I learned my name and my DNA were used to create a child I never carried. 4 months since I discovered that my mother was part of something much bigger and more dangerous than I ever imagined. The truth didn't just shake me. It remade me. At first, I didn't know what to do with any of it. The flash drive, the journals, the research, all of it sat in a box under my bed while I tried to return to some version of normal. I thought I could go back to designing logos and walking through bookstores like none of this had happened, but I couldn't. Every time I saw a child on the street, I looked for her face. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's. I finally sat down with my grandfather again. We talked for hours. For the first time in my life, he spoke about her openly. He told me about the night she came home shaking, carrying me wrapped in a lab-issued blanket, whispering that we had to hide. He told me how he helped her build new IDs and pay for a small rental house in Everett. He told me she was brilliant but scared, brave but not reckless. She didn't want you to be a part of any of it, he said. She just wanted to be your mom. And she was, even with the secrets, even with the science. She loved me with everything she had. I visited Hallen and Leora May every week since that day in the park. At first, it was small things. Picking her up from school, helping with art projects, making pancakes on Saturday mornings. I thought it might feel awkward, but it didn't. Being around her felt as natural as breathing. She looks more like me every day. But more than that, she carries something of my mother, too. It's in the way she observes people, the way she hums to herself when she's thinking, the way she asks questions like she's not just curious, but searching for something. She knows I'm not her mother in the traditional sense. Hallen and I were honest with her. in the gentlest way we could. We told her that sometimes families find each other in unexpected ways, that sometimes love shows up in the middle of something confusing and strange, and we still have to hold on to it. She nodded and asked if she could call me Lo. I said yes. Now it's her favorite word. Kyle, ever the quiet protector, is still digging through the remains of the Rosebridge Agency's data. He's found files suggesting the project continued under a different name, possibly overseas. We agreed not to chase it, for now. The more we talked, the more we realized that exposing the people behind it might put Leora May in danger. She's not a file. She's not an experiment. She's a child who deserves a future. I won't let anyone take that from her. I still have questions. I probably always will. I don't know how many versions of me might exist. I don't know who else was part of that program, but I do know who I am now. I am Leora Wren. I was born into something I never asked for, but I choose who I become next. I am the daughter of a woman who risked everything to give me a life outside of control, outside of manipulation. I am the granddaughter of a man who silently protected me for decades, carrying a burden he never deserved. I am the cousin of someone who never turned away, even when the truth was unbelievable. And now I am a presence in the life of a little girl who carries my name, my face, and maybe one day, my spirit. She changed me. I thought I had nothing left to give after everything I lost, but she showed me there's still room for love in the most unexpected places. We're planning to move in together this fall. Helen, Leora May, and me. A new kind of family. We're not perfect. We're stitched together from broken pieces, but those pieces make something strong, something real. I still go to the cafe sometimes. I sit by the window, sketching again. The staff knows me now. They smile when I walk in. I drink my tea and watch the rain. And every once in a while, I think of that moment, the way she looked up at me and called me mommy. And I smile, because even though I didn't give birth to her, and even though science says she's a copy of me, what I feel when I hold her hand is not science. It's not theory. It's real. It's fierce and messy and beautiful. This isn't the story I expected to live, but it's mine now. Every strange, impossible part of it. And I wouldn't change a thing. Thank you for listening to my story. If it moved you, surprised you, or made you think differently about what family means, I hope you'll take a moment to like the video. It really helps others find this story. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. You never know who's walking around with unanswered questions about where they came from or who they really are, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and tell me what part of the story stayed with you the most. If you want more true stories that go deeper than the surface, stories about identity, memory, and unexpected human connection, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. There's always more to uncover. Thanks again for being here. I'll see you in the next story.